The emerald-skinned Queen Nera walked slowly along the corridor of cells, her long ceremonial robes dragging behind her. The guards stood at attention as she passed, their forearms holding weapons that could obliterate a human in seconds. She had come to see the new specimen herself, the one who had been captured during the first diplomatic meeting between humans and the Teso Empire. Commander Juwu Park sat perfectly still on the simple platform that served as a bed in her cell. She had been stripped of her uniform and given a simple gray jumpsuit marked with Teso symbols. The air in the cell was slightly thinner than Earth's atmosphere, making her head pound, but she refused to show weakness. The force field that contained her hummed with a soft blue light. Through it, she could see the distorted shape of the alien queen approaching. Juwu forced herself to breathe evenly, despite the fear that threatened to overtake her. She was a commander, a diplomat, and now, whether she wanted it or not, the representative of all humanity to this advanced civilization. Queen Nera stopped directly in front of Juwu's cell and made a gesture with her upper right arm. The force field dimmed slightly, allowing for clearer visibility between them. The queen was nearly 7 feet tall, with skin the color of polished jade. Her 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller ones above them, studied Juwu with calculated interest. "So this is a human commander," the queen said, her words processed through a translation device at her throat. The voice that emerged was unnaturally smooth, lacking the clicks and whistles that punctuated the Teso language. "Smaller than I expected." Juwu stood up, determined to meet the alien ruler at as close to eye level as possible. Still, she barely reached the queen's shoulder. "The size of our bodies doesn't determine the size of our resolve, Your Majesty," Juwu replied calmly. The queen's head tilted slightly. "You know our royal protocols." "Interesting. I studied everything available about your culture before our meeting was scheduled," Juwu explained, "before your soldiers decided to take me prisoner instead of talking." Queen Nera's secondary eyes narrowed. "The decision to capture you was not made lightly, human. Your kind has been observed for decades. Your wars, your pollution, your primitive technology. We needed to understand if you posed a threat. By kidnapping the diplomat sent to establish peaceful contact." Juwu couldn't keep the edge from her voice. "By studying the specimen up close," the queen corrected. "The others in your delegation were released back to Earth with altered memories. They believe your transport craft malfunctioned. You alone were brought here, to the heart of our empire." Juwu's stomach tightened. No one was looking for her. Earth didn't even know the Teso had taken her. "Why me?" she asked. "Your neural patterns showed unusual adaptability during our scans. Most humans would break under the stress of alien abduction. Yet here you stand, human, maintaining your composure even now." The queen moved closer to the force field. "Your species is primitive compared to ours. Your capture was effortless, yet you show no fear." Juwu met the alien's 4-eyed gaze directly. "We faced worse than capture, Your Majesty." The queen's upper hands clasped together, a gesture Juwu recognized from her studies as indicating surprise or doubt. "What could be worse than the might of the Teso Empire?" Queen Nera asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Juwu considered her answer carefully. This might be her only chance to make the queen see humans as more than specimens. "Living without ever knowing what lies beyond our stars," she answered finally. "Humans have always looked to the sky with wonder. We've dreamed of meeting other intelligent life for centuries. Even if that meeting comes like this, with me in a cell, it's still better than never knowing you exist at all." The response clearly wasn't what the queen expected. Her facial ridges, delicate structures that framed her face like a crown, flared outward in what Juwu recognized from her studies as surprise. "You prefer capture to ignorance?" Queen Nera asked. "Knowledge has always been worth suffering for," Juwu replied. "Every human advancement has come at a cost. We cross oceans not knowing if we'll reach the other side. We climb mountains knowing some climbers won't return. We send people into space understanding the dangers. Illogical risk assessment, the queen stated flatly. Or a different kind of calculation, Ju countered. One that values discovery over safety. Queen Nera studied her for several long moments. The guards shifted uncomfortably at the extended silence, but neither the queen nor her human prisoner broke eye contact. You will be examined further, the queen finally said. Your physical form, your mental capabilities, your emotional responses, all will be tested. I expected nothing less, Ju replied. But I hope you'll consider speaking with me, not just studying me. There's much our species could learn from each other. You believe you have something to teach us. The queen's voice carried a hint of amusement now. Every species has something unique to offer. That's the point of contact between civilizations, isn't it? Exchange, not just observation. Queen Nera made another gesture, and the force field returned to its former strength, obscuring the view between them. We shall see what you have to offer, human. Rest now. Testing begins tomorrow. As the queen turned to leave, flanked by her guards, Ju called out, My name is Commander Ju Park. I have a name, not just a species. The queen paused but didn't turn around. After a moment, she continued walking. But Ju noticed how the queen's head tilted slightly, the way it had when she'd noted Ju's knowledge of royal protocols. Ju sat back down on the platform and closed her eyes. First contact hadn't gone as planned, but it wasn't over. As long as she was alive, there was hope for understanding. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was finding hope in impossible situations. Commander Ju Park was escorted through the twisting corridors of the Teso Royal Complex. 3 days had passed since her first meeting with Queen Nera. Days filled with physical examinations and basic cognitive tests. The guards that flanked her now walked with their lower arms holding energy weapons while their upper arms remained free to operate the many security doors they passed through. The chamber they finally entered was circular, with a domed ceiling that displayed what appeared to be a star map. Ju recognized Earth's solar system among the countless pinpoints of light, marked with a pulsing red indicator. The room was cool and dim, with a raised platform in the center where Queen Nera waited. Approach, the queen commanded, her translator converting the harsh clicks of her native language into smooth, accentless words. Ju stepped forward. The guards remained at the door, but she noticed small hovering devices, likely automated weapons, positioned around the room. Your physical resilience is unremarkable, Queen Nera began without preamble. Your strength is minimal compared to even a Teso child. Your senses are limited. Your brain, while showing interesting neural pathways, lacks the processing capacity of our simplest artificial intelligence. We manage well enough, Ju replied calmly. The queen made a gesture with her upper right hand, and a three-dimensional projection appeared between them. It showed Earth, rotating slowly. We have observed your planet for nearly 200 of your years, Queen Nera said. Long enough to witness your development from primitive steam technology to basic space travel. That's impressive progress for a species you consider unremarkable, Ju pointed out. The queen's secondary eyes narrowed slightly. Your advancement curve is unusual, yes. It is one reason we decided to study humans more directly. The projection changed, showing a series of historical images that Ju recognized. The American Civil War, the first automobiles, early airplanes, nuclear explosions, modern cities. Explain how your species survived the great solar flare of your cycle 1859, Queen Nera demanded, zooming in on images of telegraph operators from that period, alongside scientific data about the solar storm. Or a different kind of calculation, Ju countered, one that values discovery over safety. Queen Nera studied her for several long moments. The guards shifted uncomfortably at the extended silence, but neither the queen nor her human prisoner broke eye contact. You will be examined further, the queen finally said. Your physical form, your mental capabilities, your emotional responses, all will be tested. I expected nothing less, Ju replied. But I hope you'll consider speaking with me, not just studying me. There's much our species could learn from each other. You believe you have something to teach us. The Queen's voice carried a hint of amusement now. Every species has something unique to offer. That's the point of contact between civilizations, isn't it? Exchange, not just observation. Queen Nera made another gesture, and the force field returned to its former strength, obscuring the view between them. We shall see what you have to offer, human. Rest now. Testing begins tomorrow. As the Queen turned to leave, flanked by her guards, Ju called out, "My name is Commander Ju Park. I have a name, not just a species." The Queen paused but didn't turn around. After a moment, she continued walking, but Ju noticed how the Queen's head tilted slightly, the way it had when she'd noted Ju's knowledge of royal protocols. Ju sat back down on the platform and closed her eyes. First contact hadn't gone as planned, but it wasn't over. As long as she was alive, there was hope for understanding. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was finding hope in impossible situations. Commander Ju Park was escorted through the twisting corridors of the Teso Royal Complex. 3 days had passed since her first meeting with Queen Nera, days filled with physical examinations and basic cognitive tests. The guards that flanked her now walked with their lower arms holding energy weapons while their upper arms remained free to operate the many security doors they passed through. The chamber they finally entered was circular, with a domed ceiling that displayed what appeared to be a star map. Ju recognized Earth's solar system among the countless pinpoints of light, marked with a pulsing red indicator. The room was cool and dim, with a raised platform in the center where Queen Nera waited. "Approach," the Queen commanded, her translator converting the harsh clicks of her native language into smooth, accentless words. Ju stepped forward. The guards remained at the door, but she noticed small hovering devices, likely automated weapons, positioned around the room. "Your physical resilience is unremarkable," Queen Nera began without preamble. "Your strength is minimal compared to even a Teso child. Your senses are limited. Your brain, while showing interesting neural pathways, lacks the processing capacity of our simplest artificial intelligence." "We manage well enough," Ju replied calmly. The Queen made a gesture with her upper right hand, and a 3-dimensional projection appeared between them. It showed Earth, rotating slowly. "We have observed your planet for nearly 200 of your years," Queen Nera said. "Long enough to witness your development from primitive steam technology to basic space travel. That's impressive progress for a species you consider unremarkable," Ju pointed out. The Queen's secondary eyes narrowed slightly. "Your advancement curve is unusual, yes. It is one reason we decided to study humans more directly." The projection changed, showing a series of historical images that Ju recognized. The American Civil War, the first automobiles, early airplanes, nuclear explosions, modern cities. "Explain how your species survived the great solar flare of your cycle 1859, Queen Nera demanded, zooming in on images of telegraph operators from that period, alongside scientific data about the solar storm. Ju recognized the event from her history studies, the Carrington event, a massive solar flare that had caused auroras as far south as Cuba and had set telegraph papers on fire. "We didn't have the technology to understand it then," Ju replied honestly. "Most humans at that time didn't even know what caused it. But we endured. Humans always do." Queen Nera's head tilted in that now familiar gesture of interest. "Without neural networks, without quantum shields, without any advanced technology," Ju confirmed. "We didn't even have electricity in most places then." The Queen stepped down from her platform and circled Ju slowly. "Then what protected you?" "Luck." Ju considered her answer carefully. "Partly luck, yes, but also with hope." The Queen stopped her circling. "Hope is not a technology." "No," Ju smiled slightly. "It's something far more powerful." Queen Nera stepped back, her facial ridges flaring in what Ju had come to recognize as genuine surprise. "Explain this concept," the Queen demanded. How does an emotional state protect against radiation? Hope isn't just a feeling, Ju said. It's what drives us to rebuild after disasters. It's what makes us look for solutions when problems seem impossible. The solar flare damaged what little technology we had then, but we didn't give up. We rebuilt. We learned. We developed better systems. The queen was silent for several moments, her 4 eyes studying Ju intently. Your species faces extinction-level threats regularly, she finally said, changing the projection to show hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and pandemics. Yet you persist without unified planetary defenses. We adapt, Ju explained. Different communities develop different solutions based on their needs and resources. Inefficient, Queen Nera stated. But resilient, Ju countered. If one approach fails, others might succeed. Diversity of thought and method has saved us many times. The queen made another gesture, and the projection changed to show human conflicts, wars, protests, riots. You fight among yourselves constantly, she observed, over resources, territory, beliefs. How does this promote survival? Ju winced at the images. I won't pretend our conflicts are something to be proud of. But even in our darkest moments, humans find ways to show compassion and cooperation. For every war, there are thousands of acts of kindness and sacrifice. The projection changed again, this time showing humans helping each other during disasters, pulling people from rubble, forming human chains to rescue others from floods, sharing food during famines. Your studies have been thorough, Ju noted, surprised by the balanced presentation. We seek understanding, not confirmation of assumptions, Queen Nera replied. Though your answers are unexpected. May I ask a question, Your Majesty? Ju requested. The queen paused, then nodded once. Has the Teso Empire ever faced extinction? Queen Nera's posture stiffened. Twice in our recorded history. The stellar collapse of the Third Age and the biological war with the now extinct Krev species. And how did you survive? With technology, with unity, with superior tactical planning, the queen answered promptly. And was there ever a moment when it seemed all might be lost, when your technology wasn't enough? Ju pressed carefully. The queen's hands clasped and unclasped, a sign of discomfort, Ju guessed. During the stellar collapse, our quantum shields failed, Queen Nera admitted. 90% of our technology became non-functional. The royal scientists had no immediate solution. What happened then? The previous queen ordered our people to the underground caverns. We survived there for 3 generations while the surface was rebuilt. That decision, to go underground instead of attempting space evacuation, was it based on calculations, or was it an intuitive choice? Queen Nera was silent for a long moment. The historical records indicate that all evidence suggested evacuation was the logical choice. The queen went against her advisors. That sounds like hope to me, Ju said softly, believing in a future when all evidence suggests otherwise. The queen's facial ridges flared again, wider this time. She turned away abruptly and waved a hand, dismissing the projections. You will return to your cell, she ordered, but her voice lacked its earlier authoritative tone. We will continue these discussions tomorrow. As the guards moved forward to escort Ju out, Queen Nera added, Commander Park, your answers are challenging our understanding of human resilience. This requires further consideration. Ju nodded respectfully. I look forward to our next conversation, Your Majesty. As she was led back through the complex, Ju allowed herself a small smile. The first crack had appeared in the queen's certainty. It wasn't freedom, but it was progress. And progress, like hope, was something humans understood very well. Commander Ju Park awoke to find herself in a new room. Gone was the cell with its humming force field and simple platform bed. This space was larger, with actual furniture that seemed designed to accommodate human comfort. There was a sleeping platform with some kind of cushioning material, a water dispensing station, and even a small area with what appeared to be Earth-style seating. a chair and table. The walls glowed with a soft blue light, illuminating the space without any visible light source. One wall featured a large transparent panel that looked out onto a vast alien cityscape. Towering structures of crystal and metal stretched to the horizon under twin moons that hung like pale eyes in a purple sky. Jiwoo approached the window cautiously, wondering if it was real or just a projection. When she touched it, the surface felt cool and solid. She pressed her forehead against it and looked down. The royal complex stretched below her, at least 50 stories up from the ground. She was still a prisoner, but her cage had definitely been upgraded. A soft tone sounded, and a section of the wall slid open. 2 Teso guards entered, their 4 arms at attention. "The Queen approaches," one announced through a translator device. "Prepare yourself." Jiwoo straightened her gray jumpsuit, still the same prisoner attire, despite the improved accommodations. "I'm ready." The guard stepped aside as Queen Nera entered the room alone, something that clearly made the guards uncomfortable, judging by the way their secondary eyes darted nervously. The Queen made a sharp gesture, and the guards retreated, the door sliding closed behind them. "You've been moved," the Queen stated, her emerald skin catching the room's blue light in a way that made her almost glow. "Yes, thank you for the improved quarters," Jiwoo replied with a small bow of acknowledgement. "It is not charity. It is practicality," Queen Nera corrected. "Our studies indicate humans require more varied environmental stimulation than we initially provided. Still, I appreciate it." Jiwoo gestured to the chair. "Would you like to sit, Your Majesty?" The Queen regarded the furniture with mild curiosity. "Your human seating is not designed for our anatomy." "Of course. I apologize." Queen Nera moved to the window and looked out at her empire. "We have been in discussion with the High Council regarding your case." Jiwoo felt her heart rate increase. "And what has the council decided?" "They have not," the Queen replied. "Your continued presence is contested." "I see." Jiwoo joined the Queen at the window, maintaining a respectful distance. "And what is your position, if I may ask?" Queen Nera turned her 4 eyes to study Jiwoo. "I have dismissed my advisors to speak with you directly. Without their influence, I find your perspectives challenging." "In what way?" "I studied your Earth broadcasts," she said. "Your entertainment, your news, your historical records. Your species fights constantly among itself." Jiwoo nodded, acknowledging the truth of the statement. "Yet we also create art that moves us to tears and sacrifice ourselves for strangers. Contradictory behaviors have no evolutionary advantage," the Queen stated firmly. "A species should develop consistent survival strategies. Our contradictions make us adaptable," Jiwoo explained. "When one approach fails, we try another. We're not locked into a single way of solving problems." The Queen's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of deep thought that Jiwoo had learned to recognize during their previous conversations. "Your art particularly confuses me," Queen Nera admitted after a long moment. "You create images, sounds, and stories that serve no practical purpose." "They serve emotional purposes," Jiwoo said. "They help us process our experiences, connect with others, imagine new possibilities. We have efficiency. You have art." The Queen made it sound like a disease. "May I ask a personal question, Your Majesty?" The Queen hesitated, then nodded once. "Have you ever felt moved by beauty? By a sunset or a piece of music or a perfect mathematical equation?" Queen Nera's upper hands clasped together. "The question is imprecise. Define moved." "Feeling something beyond rational thought. A connection that goes deeper than analysis." The Queen was silent for several long moments. Then, surprising Jiwoo, she moved to the small table and attempted to arrange her tall frame on the human-sized chair. The image might have been comical if the situation weren't so serious. The powerful alien monarch perched awkwardly on furniture too small for her. "There is a crystal formation in the northern mountains of our homeworld," Queen Nera said finally. "When the 3 moons align, which happens once every 73 years, the light refracts through the crystals in a pattern that has never been fully mapped. As a young royal, I was taken to witness this phenomenon. The colors and patterns were— She paused, seemingly searching for the right word. Unexpected. Juwu smiled gently. That sounds beautiful. It served no purpose, the queen continued. Yet I have retained the memory with unusual clarity. Is this what you mean by being moved? Yes, exactly. Juwu took a chance and sat down across from the queen. That's what art tries to capture, those moments of unexpected beauty or truth or connection. And this helps your species survive. This experiencing of purposeless beauty. It gives us reasons to survive, Juwu explained. Reasons beyond just continuing to exist. The queen's head tilted. Existing is not enough. Not for humans. We need meaning, purpose, connection. Even in captivity, Queen Nera asked, her gaze intensifying. Even then, Juwu confirmed, right now my purpose is to represent humanity to you as truthfully as I can. To build understanding between our species. The queen rose from the chair, seemingly having reached some internal decision. I have accessed your personal records, Commander Park. Before your diplomatic assignment, you were a pilot. You flew what your people call rescue missions in dangerous situations. Juwu nodded, surprised by the change in topic. Yes, search and rescue operations after natural disasters. You risk your survival to save others who are not your genetic relatives. That's correct. Explain. Juwu thought for a moment. Because every human life has value. Because I had the skills to help. Because if I were the one in danger, I would hope someone would come for me. Reciprocal altruism, the queen suggested, partly. But also because it was the right thing to do. Right is subjective, Queen Nera countered. Yes, but some principles cross cultures. Protecting the vulnerable. Alleviating suffering when possible. These aren't just human concepts. The queen made a gesture Juwu hadn't seen before, touching her upper right hand to where a human heart would be. The council believes humans are unpredictable and potentially dangerous, she said. They cite your violent history, your resource consumption, your rapid technological development. Juwu felt cold fear settle in her stomach. And what do you believe, Your Majesty? I believe. The queen paused. I believe I require more information before reaching a conclusion about your species. She moved toward the door, which slid open at her approach. Before leaving, she turned back to Juwu. Tomorrow, you will be given access to our historical archives. Study them. I will return in 3 days for your assessment of Teso civilization. My assessment? Juwu asked, surprised. Yes, Queen Nera replied. You have been evaluating us, just as we have been evaluating you. I wish to hear your conclusions. With that, the queen departed, leaving Juwu standing speechless in her new quarters, staring at the closed door while the twin moons cast their pale light across the alien city. The 3 days Juwu spent in the Teso archives were eye-opening. Through the translation interface provided to her, she learned that the Teso civilization was far older than humanity's recorded history, nearly 8,000 years of documented imperial rule. They had conquered 12 other sentient species, all now serving various functions within their vast empire. But what troubled Juwu most was discovering evidence of other human captives. The records showed at least 30 humans had been taken from Earth over the past 50 years, kept in separate facilities across the Teso homeworld. Each was being studied for different attributes: physical endurance, cognitive processing, emotional responses. On the morning of the 4th day, as Juwu waited for Queen Nera's return, she heard something that made her blood run cold, raised voices in the corridor outside her quarters, speaking in the clicking Teso language. Though she couldn't understand without a translator, the aggressive tone was unmistakable. Then came sounds of struggle, followed by silence. Juwu moved quickly to the small table, breaking off one of its legs to use as a potential weapon. She positioned herself beside the door, ready to strike if necessary. When the door slid open, it wasn't guards who entered, but Queen Nera herself. The queen's normally immaculate robes were disheveled, and a dark green fluid, blood, Juwu realized, smeared one of her forearms. "We must leave immediately," the queen said, her voice low and urgent. "What's happening?" Juwu asked, still gripping her makeshift weapon. "A faction of the High Council has moved against me," Queen Nera explained quickly. "They believe my interest in understanding humans has compromised my judgment. Sub-Commander Duri leads them. Why come for me? Why not save yourself?" "Because you are evidence," the queen said, moving to the wall opposite the door and pressing her palm against it in a complex pattern. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage. "Evidence that I was right to question our approach to other species." Juwu hesitated. "How do I know this isn't a test? Another way to study human reactions." Queen Nera turned all four eyes to her. "You don't. But if we stay here, we will both be dead within the hour. Decide quickly, Commander Park." The distant sound of energy weapons made the decision for her. Juwu followed the queen into the passage, which sealed behind them. They moved through a network of narrow tunnels that Juwu guessed were emergency escape routes for the royal family. After several minutes of silent travel, they emerged into a wider corridor that looked like a maintenance area. "This leads to the lower levels," Queen Nera explained. "From there, we can access my private transport." They had traveled only a short distance when alarms began blaring throughout the complex, lights flashing in a pattern that clearly signaled emergency. "They've discovered my absence," the queen said, quickening her pace. They turned a corner and found themselves facing 3 armed Teso guards. For a fraction of a second, all parties froze in surprise. Then the guards raised their weapons. "Stand down," Queen Nera commanded, her voice carrying the full force of royal authority. 2 of the guards hesitated, but the third fired immediately. Juwu ducked as the energy blast struck the corridor wall behind her, sending fragments of the strange metal flying. Queen Nera moved with unexpected speed for her size, reaching into her robes and producing a small device that emitted a pulse of energy. The guards collapsed instantly, their weapons clattering to the floor. "Neural disruptor," the queen explained, collecting one of the fallen weapons and handing it to Juwu. "Temporary effect only." Juwu accepted the alien weapon, quickly examining its design. It was lighter than it looked, with what appeared to be a trigger mechanism adapted for Teso hands. "Why help me?" Juwu asked, adjusting her grip on the unfamiliar weapon. "You're risking everything." "Because you showed me something no Teso has in 8,000 years, a new perspective," the queen replied simply. "Our empire has stagnated through conquest and control. Your species, with all its contradictions and inefficiencies, continues to evolve and adapt." More alarms sounded, these with a different pattern. "They're sealing the sectors," Queen Nera said urgently. "We must hurry." They moved more quickly now, the queen leading them through increasingly industrial-looking areas of the complex. Twice more they encountered guards, but with the element of surprise and the queen's authority, they managed to avoid direct conflict. As they descended deeper into the complex, Juwu remembered the archive's information. "The other humans," she said between breaths as they ran. "The record showed other captives. Are they kept here?" Queen Nera's facial ridges flattened, a sign of regret. Juwu had learned. "Yes, in the research facilities on the lower levels." "We need to free them," Juwu insisted, stopping abruptly. "That is not the optimal escape strategy," the queen argued. "My transport can carry us to the outer territories, where I still have loyal supporters. I'm not leaving without them," Juwu said firmly. "How many guards in the research section?" "Minimal security. The humans there have been in captivity much longer than you. They are not considered flight risks." "Then we're going. Where are they held?" The queen's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, and for a moment Juwu thought she might refuse. Then her posture shifted subtly. "This way," she said, changing direction. They moved downward through several more levels until they reached an area marked with symbols Ju recognized from the archives as indicating biological research. The Queen bypassed the security with her royal access codes, though she noted that her clearance might be revoked at any moment. The research facility was eerily quiet when they entered. Through transparent walls, Ju could see human captives in various states of activity, some sitting blank-faced on beds, others pacing their cells, a few engaged with what appeared to be testing devices. "They've been drugged," Queen Nera explained, seeing Ju's expression. "Standard procedure for long-term study subjects." "Can it be reversed?" "Not immediately, but removing them from the compound will begin the process." A new alarm sounded, this one more urgent than the previous. "Sub-Commander Dury has accessed this sector," the Queen said, moving quickly to a control panel. "He wants your head. And mine as well." She worked the controls, and the transparent barriers of the cells began to retract. Confused humans looked up, some backing away in fear at the sight of the Teso Queen. "How many can fight?" Ju asked, noting that many seemed too disoriented to be helpful in an escape. "Unknown, but we have no choice now. We must take them all." Ju entered the first cell, approaching a middle-aged man who stared at her with confusion. "I'm Commander Park," she said gently. "I'm human, like you. We're getting out of here." "Home?" the man asked, his voice hoarse as if rarely used. "Yes," Ju promised, though she had no idea if it was a promise she could keep. "Home." She moved quickly from cell to cell, gathering the captives. 28 in total, of varying ages and nationalities, judging by their appearances. Most could walk unassisted, but a few needed help, leaning heavily on their fellow captives. "We can't fight like this," Ju told the Queen, who was monitoring the security displays. "We won't need to if we reach my transport before Dury's forces cut us off." Queen Nera led them through service corridors and maintenance shafts, less traveled routes that might avoid detection. They had almost reached the royal hangar when energy blasts exploded around them. Ju pushed several captives behind a structural column for protection. At the end of the corridor stood Sub-Commander Dury, flanked by a dozen elite guards. The sub-commander was shorter than the Queen but broader, his emerald skin darker and his ceremonial armor gleaming with insignia of high rank. "Treason," he called out, his translator making the word sound even harsher. "Releasing test subjects, betraying the Empire." "The true betrayal is refusing to evolve," Queen Nera replied, standing tall despite the weapons aimed at her. "These humans are not our enemies, Dury. They are primitive, chaotic, dangerous," the sub-commander spat, "and you have been contaminated by their influence." He raised his weapon. "Surrender now, or die with them." Queen Nera turned to Ju, her 4 eyes conveying a question without words. "Can your people really fight as fiercely as your histories claim?" she asked quietly. Ju gripped her weapon tighter and gave the Queen a determined nod. "Watch and learn, Your Majesty." 8 months had passed since the rebellion in the Teso royal complex. 8 months of careful diplomacy, tense negotiations, and gradual trust-building between 2 vastly different species. From the window of her temporary quarters on the Teso homeworld, Ju Park watched the twin moons rising over the crystal city, casting their pale light across buildings that no longer seemed quite so alien to her eyes. She touched the scar on her arm, a reminder of the firefight that had followed her bold words to Queen Nera. The escape had not gone smoothly. 3 of the human captives and 5 loyal Teso guards had died in the confrontation with Sub-Commander Dury's forces. But against all odds, they had reached the Queen's personal transport vessel. What followed was a 3-week civil conflict that splintered the Teso Empire. Queen Nera, supported by younger, more progressive factions, had eventually prevailed, with Sub-Commander Dury captured and his supporters neutralized. The humans had played a crucial role in that victory, their unpredictable tactics and adaptability proving decisive in several key battles. A soft tone sounded, indicating a visitor at her door. Enter, Ju called. The door slid open to reveal Hannah Kim, one of Earth's top diplomats, who had arrived with the official delegation 2 months earlier. "It's time," Hannah said, her expression a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "The final session is about to begin." Ju smoothed the front of her formal uniform, no longer the gray jumpsuit of a captive, but the deep blue of Earth's newly formed interstellar diplomatic corps, with the insignia of ambassador prominently displayed. "How do I look?" she asked, attempting a smile despite her dry mouth. "Like someone who changed history," Hannah replied sincerely. "Ready?" Ju nodded, and together they made their way through the palace corridors. Now familiar territory where she walked freely, nodded to Teso guards who returned the gesture with respect rather than suspicion. The diplomatic chamber was the most impressive room in the royal complex, with soaring ceilings of translucent crystal that filtered the moonlight into patterns across the floor. At the center stood a large table, also crystal, with the representatives of 12 Earth nations seated along one side, and the Teso delegation on the other. As Ju and Hannah entered, all eyes turned to them. Ju took her place at the center of the Earth delegation, directly across from Queen Nera. The Queen looked different now. Her formal robes had been modified to incorporate elements of human design, straight lines, and asymmetrical patterns that contrasted with traditional Teso circular motifs. The change was symbolic. Ju knew, a visible sign of the cultural exchange that had already begun. "We have reviewed the final treaty terms," said the representative from India, a serious woman who had taken the lead in much of the negotiation. "Earth is prepared to proceed with ratification." "As is the Teso Empire," replied Minister Kano, who had emerged as Queen Nera's most trusted advisor after the conflict. His attitude toward humans had shifted dramatically since the rebellion, from dismissive to genuinely curious. Queen Nera rose to her full height, commanding the attention of everyone present. The chamber fell silent as she prepared to speak. "Before we sign this historic document," the Queen began, her translator now programmed to convey more nuance in her tone, "I wish to acknowledge the journey that brought us here." She looked directly at Ju. 8,000 years of Teso history taught us that superior technology and military might were the only paths to security. We conquered because we could not imagine another way to relate to different species. Murmurs ran through both delegations. This level of candor from the Queen was unprecedented. "The Teso Empire has existed for millennia because we conquered all who opposed us," she announced. "Yet in 3 lunar cycles, one human showed us the weakness of our rigid thinking." She gestured to Ju with her upper right hand, a sign of highest respect in Teso culture. "Commander Park, now Ambassador Park, did not defeat us with weapons or technology. She challenged us with questions, with contradictions, with hope." The Queen's inner eyelids flickered briefly. "With art." Several of the Teso delegation shifted uncomfortably. These new ideas were still controversial among the more traditional elements of their society. "We believe that evolution meant becoming more perfect, more efficient, more uniform," Queen Nera continued. "Humans showed us that true evolution comes from diversity, from adaptability, from embracing imperfection rather than eliminating it." Ju felt a lump in her throat as she remembered the conversations that had led to this moment. Discussions about hope and art and sacrifice that had gradually changed the Queen's understanding of humanity. "We offer alliance, not dominion," the Queen concluded. "For we have learned that humans possess something we lack, the ability to find strength in your limitations." She extended all 4 of her hands, palms up, in the traditional Teso gesture of equality, a gesture that, until now, had never been offered to another species. "Together, we will be stronger than either of us could be alone." Ju stood and stepped forward. Months of diplomatic training had prepared her for this moment, yet her heart raced as she placed her hands atop the Queen's, a human gesture of agreement incorporated into the Teso ceremony. "On behalf of Earth," Ju said, her voice steady despite her emotions, "we accept this alliance, not as the conquered, but as equals, not as specimens, but as partners. The treaty document was brought forward, an actual physical document, printed on a material that resembled paper but would last for centuries without degradation. Earth had insisted on this tangible symbol rather than the purely digital records the Teso preferred. One by one, the representatives approached and added their signatures or marks. Queen Nera was the last to sign, using all four hands to imprint her royal seal, a gesture that signified the full commitment of her empire. By the time the signing was complete, the twin moons had risen fully in the night sky, bathing the chamber in silver light. The treaty between Earth and the Teso Empire, the first interstellar agreement in human history, was official. As celebrations began, with humans and Teso awkwardly but earnestly attempting to observe each other's customs, Jiwu found herself standing beside Queen Nera at the crystal windows, looking out at the city below. "Did you imagine this outcome when you first captured me?" Jiwu asked quietly. "No," the queen admitted. "I expected to study you, classify you, and eventually dismiss you as another primitive species. And now," Queen Nera's facial ridges relaxed in what Jiwu had come to recognize as the Teso equivalent of a smile. "Now I understand what you meant about hope being more powerful than technology." She turned her four eyes to Jiwu. "It creates possibilities that logic alone cannot imagine." Below them, in the city streets, humans and Teso were already beginning to mingle, scientists eager to exchange knowledge, artists curious about alien aesthetics, ordinary people simply trying to understand beings utterly different from themselves. "It won't be easy," Jiwu said, watching a human child hesitantly approach a young Teso. "No," agreed the queen. "But as you humans would say, nothing worth doing ever is." By dawn, the news would reach Earth. Humanity had taken its first true steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals. And it had all begun with a single captive who refused to be nothing more than a specimen.